Hey, look, it's National Pulled Pork Day. But that's not the purpose of this video. Today we're going to talk about Kia EV Day. Let's dig in. This is the nighttime image they gave leading up to today, and now the sun is up. On the far left, of course, that's the Kia EV6. It's been in production since 2021, riding on the eGMP platform. On the far right, that's the EV9, a three-row SUV. They've announced pricing and deliveries to the US will begin in late 2023. It's also a eGMP platform vehicle. Middle, that's the Kia EV5, a compact crossover. I'll have more to say about that in a bit. Going numerically down the lineup, left you have the Kia EV4. It's a compact sedan. In this video, we'll look at that. And last but not least, on the right, we now know that is the Kia EV3. Let's talk about that one right now. We now know this as the Kia EV3. There's some speculation that it would be called EV4, but that's not the case. Kia is wisely aligning their name numbering size-wise. That's unlike Polestar, which is numbering them as they come out sequentially. Compare the styling of this vehicle to the earlier Soul EV, also called the e-Soul in some markets, and you can see some similarity in the silhouette, the boxy silhouette. The Kia e-Soul will end production this year, and the Soul EV has been out of the market in North America since 2020. Kia calls this their vision for an electric compact SUV that is both practical and joyful. So it is a concept. We've seen pre-production models being tested under heavy camouflage, and it's clear it's the same vehicle. So the styling is going to certainly transition to production on the outside. Overall, the oversized geometric wheel covers, you should expect something like this. The spy photos show a different pattern, but it's still really big for this shape of the vehicle, and that asymmetrical angles of the wheel covers give it kind of a funky look. The front lighting is probably a little bit still too concept, so that'll have to evolve a little bit to be more of a production headlight design that will meet requirements. Note the side view mirrors on this, so it is a production vehicle, just the styling is going to evolve a little bit before it actually hits the road. Inside, it is much more concept-like, but if you like the current EV6, and you look at this vehicle, there's a lot of similarities. You have that long, wide digital display, actually two displays, one in front of the driver and the other centrally located side by side. Like the EV6, it has a two-spoke steering wheel design. Some people really like this design. I haven't lived with it enough to know if it feels good and is good to live with or not. But styling-wise, I'm not really sold on it. What do you think? Based on comments, you should expect the pricing to start around $35,000 US. They also talked about their manufacturing footprint in this press release. By 2025, they want 8 EV plants producing globally. They have a goal of selling 1 million EVs by 2026. Korea is their central hub for production. I would expect these to be made there for the Asia market. They also said that Europe would be the focus for small to medium EVs. The EV3 seems to fit that category of small to medium. So could they make this vehicle also in Slovakia? That's a plant they have. It's a possibility. Going deeper into the comments, they mentioned other EVs starting as low as $30,000, less than this EV3. Strategically designed EV models tailored for emerging markets will be produced in India. So that's a direct quote from the press release. I believe that there's another EV yet to be announced out there. Could it be called the EV2? Sure, that's a possibility. Could it be based on their older 400-volt architecture to save some money and get a lower price point? That's a possibility as well. That's what the current Kia Niro EV uses. It's an older architecture, but it works well. Let's keep a watch out for lower prices and emerging market EVs from Kia. That could be part of their plans for India. Up next is the EV4. As you can see, this is a compact sedan with a fastback rear, has a sleek low nose in the front, a long tail rear with a roof spoiler. This is also a concept. It's less mature than the EV3 on the outside. What the Hyundai Ioniq 6 is to the Ioniq 5, that's what I think the EV4 is to the EV6. I know that's a lot of numbers, but I think you get it. On the inside, like the EV3, the EV4 has similarities to the current EV6 overall styling design, but it's still very concepty. It lacks the details that you would expect from a production design. The rose gold kind of color palette is it's very bright and clean in the images that were released. Asian consumers tend to take pride and value in the cleanliness of the interiors. Thus, the designers over there, they love to offer interior colors like this, colors that, quite honestly, I would view as being very difficult to keep clean. Me personally, I'm not a slob, but I like darker color interiors that hide things like coffee stains and mud. We don't have detailed dimensions, but expect that this model would compete with the Tesla Model 3 and the Polestar 2, among many others. This could be a candidate for production in Europe alongside the earlier vehicle. They said that their China strategy will focus on mid to large EVs. And that's kind of surprising. Hyundai Kia is restructuring their plans for China. It could be produced in the US when production of the EV6 and the Ioniq 5 start up in Georgia. Now we get to the Kia EV5. This was shown earlier this year as what they called a concept, and now this is what you should expect from the production model. On the outside, the EV5 looks like a scaled down EV9, and I think that's a good thing. It's got the geometric wheel designs and the technical design surfaces. I guess I'll say in general for all of these vehicles, if you like this new Kia design language, I think you'll like lots of the vehicles, maybe all the vehicles in the lineup. If you're not down with it and styling is subjective, then you're going to have problems with all of them. So at least you can see that there's a consistent family design that's going across the entire lineup. On the inside, just like the earlier comment, this is a kind of a scaled down interior from the EV9 as well. The steering wheel in particular has that more traditional spoke than the two spoke design on those other vehicles. The display is similar to other Kias. It's a 12.3-inch cluster in front of the driver and a 12.3-inch center display mounted in such a way so as to look like one large display. If that looks like a bench seat in the front, it is, but that's only for the China market. Unlike the other vehicles shown that were concepts, we do have some specs for the EV5. It will be manufactured in China and Korea, so those Korea vehicles could go domestically or to other markets. The standard powertrain is 215 horsepower, driving the front wheels. That sounds just like the standard motor in the rear-wheel drive EV9. And now that EV9 is a much larger vehicle, and I question if that 215 horsepower is really going to provide enough joy in driving. But for this smaller EV5, it should do a plenty good job. If you check the box for the optional E all-wheel drive, you get an additional 94 horsepower added to the rear. So it will be front biased from a power delivery, but will still have all-wheel drive and very good power. It's a more boxy SUV shape than other EVs, but for what it's worth, I'll compare it to the top-selling Tesla Model Y. The Kia EV6 and Tesla Model Y are both crossovers with a more aerodynamic rear glass, and the EV5 is a more boxy, taller SUV shape. The EV5 will offer larger battery options than those other two vehicles. Range looks to be a tad bit less than the Model Y, due in part to its less aerodynamic shape. When new EVs get announced, increasingly they're quoting CLTC range estimates. That's the Chinese way of testing, and it results in much larger numbers, so the marketing people like to quote those. When you compare to the WLTP test in Europe or the EPA test used in the US, you can see that the numbers are more in line with what you would expect from real-world range. In China, deliveries of the EV5 are expected in early 2024. But what about the US? I think their strategy is being reevaluated in light of the Inflation Reduction Act. They've already made one massive change of bringing production of the EV6 and Hyundai Ioniq 5 to their new plant in Georgia. Now, this Kia EV5, if they import it from Korea, it could just cannibalize sales of the EV6, which would negate the reason for building those vehicles in the US in the first place. Or do they bring manufacturing of the EV5 to the US? They mentioned none of that. This is just pure speculation. But now you have 3 manufacturing locations for one vehicle. That's not totally efficient. So I'm sure internally they're reevaluating the situation and not wanting to make any commitments outside of China for production early next year. Hyundai Kia Communications does a really good job of teasing out information over many months leading up to production. So we'll have to wait and see about how their plans emerge. And if you want to stay up to date, hit that subscribe button and like this video if you found it informative. Thanks for watching.